It's time for Positively Kansas. Coming up, he may be one of the greatest war heroes Wichita ever produced. Now, a century after his death, see why Erwin Bleckley's fame is soaring to new heights. Also, we'll visit a motorcycle lover's dream in Augusta. And we'll check out a brand new space in downtown Cheney for everyone to enjoy. Then you'll see how this Wichita native is on track to steal the show on Broadway with his music. I'm Sierra Scott. Those stories are queued up and ready to roll in this edition of Positively Kansas.
Positively Kansas is brought to you in part by...
Before investing your hard-earned money, make sure your financial advisor understands your objectives. Mark Douglas, CFP, serving our community for over 20 years, providing customized financial solutions that focus on the individual.
Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Kansas serves more than 930,000 Kansans in various programs. Independent, member-owned. Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Kansas, an independent licensee of Blue Cross and Blue Shield Association, supports KPTS.
Program support provided by the F. Price Kosman Memorial Trust, Entrust Bank trustee, bringing you the Kansas Wild Edge segments on Positively Kansas.
The word hero is thrown around a lot, but when it comes to Lieutenant Erwin R. Bleckley, there's no debate. He was a young aviator from Wichita who risked his life trying to help rescue his lost comrades. Chris Frank explains what makes the fallen hero a topic of discussion now, a century later.
Erwin Bleckley is the greatest aviation hero by far the city has ever produced.
So who was this Lieutenant Erwin R. Bleckley, you might ask? And why now is there such a push for a memorial to honor and recognize him?
He is the only Aviation Medal of Honor recipient born and raised in Wichita. He might be the most notable military figure the city has ever produced. And yet for most of the last century, or a good chunk of it, he went forgotten.
Greg Zerker and members of the Bleckley Airport Memorial Foundation are campaigning to get a memorial honoring Bleckley at the Eisenhower National Airport Terminal.
How can the air capital of the world not honor its greatest aviation hero at its own airport?
Zerker says he's been studying the history of Lieutenant Erwin Bleckley for 25 years.
And his heroism is off the charts.
Erwin Bleckley was born in Wichita, December 30th, 1894. He joined the Kansas National Guard and in 1917 was commissioned as second lieutenant in the field artillery. He wanted to be an aviator, but his parents objected. Yet, after arriving in France, the American Expeditionary Force put out a call for artillery officers like Bleckley to train as aerial observers. Bleckley volunteered. That put him in the back seat of the de Havilland DH-4 airplane. From there, he observed artillery strikes. He also dropped supplies from the air to soldiers below and operated the plane's rear gun. What thrust Lieutenant Bleckley and pilot Lieutenant Harold Gettler into notoriety was the search for what became known as the Lost Battalion. That battalion successfully pushed into enemy territory, but in the process, it got cut off from support and surrounded by enemy German troops.
They achieved their objective in the early days of October 2nd and 3rd. Their flanking units, a French one, I think, on one side and an American on the other, did not. So the Lost Battalion achieved their objective. The problem is their flanking units didn't keep up with them. The Germans overran the other two positions and surrounded the Lost Battalion.
Those Americans, mostly from New York, suffered heavy losses.
They were surrounded by Germans who kept firing on them, besieging them. They were close to being wiped out if they didn't get relieved or resupplied.
The 50th Aero Squadron conducted more than a dozen aerial searches for the American soldiers. Bad weather and the dense canopy of the Argonne Forest inhibited Lieutenant Bleckley from locating the battalion and dropping in desperately needed supplies from the plane.
The lost battalion couldn't put out too many markers because that would also give their signal away, their positions away to the Germans.
Lieutenants Bleckley and Gettler wouldn't give up the search after Bleckley believed he had spotted the battalion October 6, 1918.
Most Medal of Honors are earned in the heat of the moment. Erwin's was earned with deliberation and premeditation. He went out earlier that day on October 6th on his earlier mission. They caught 40 rounds of fire inside their fuselage. It's a miracle. Erwin and its pilot, Harold Gettler, were not hit.
The pair was able to return to their base with their shot-up plane, but their aircraft was grounded due to the damage it sustained.
And yet Erwin thought he caught a glimpse of the lost battalion, and his conscience wouldn't let him rest. He didn't have to go or volunteer for that last mission. They could have sat in their barracks or whatever, or in their briefing rooms and just played it out.
But that wasn't Lieutenant Bleckley's way. Bleckley and Gettler needed another plane to renew their search. Zerker says they turned to another Kansan for help.
Harold was good friends with Floyd Pickerel from Leon, Kansas. Here we go with another connection. And Floyd loaned his plane, number 6, to Erwin and Gettler. And they took that up on their last, we call it the Medal of Honor mission. It's so heroic because Erwin probably knew he wasn't coming back.
Bleckley was advised of the dangers of going back out.
He was warned by Squadron Commander Captain Daniel Morse of the extreme danger facing him, and Erwin said, "We're going to go, we'll make the delivery or die in the attempt." Erwin was the driving force, and to his credit, Gettler went along with it too.
The two were shot down and killed in coming to the battalion's rescue. Both were awarded the Congressional Medal of Honor for their actions.
He lost his life in a great heroic action, just doing his job and volunteering for an extremely dangerous mission that, to nobody's credit, most people would never have gone on.
Zerker says Bleckley's and Gettler's efforts helped lead to the rescue of more than 400 soldiers. Bleckley isn't without recognition in Wichita. McConnell Air Force Base has the Bleckley Lounge, where the interview with Zerker was conducted. There's Bleckley Drive, which will also take you to Bleckley Field across the street from Robinson Middle School. And VFW Post 112 at the corner of Topeka and Harry is named after Bleckley. Zerker hopes someday soon there will be an appropriate memorial to Bleckley at Wichita's Eisenhower Airport Terminal. The Bleckley Airport Memorial Foundation purchased a DH-4 plane identical to the one Bleckley and Gettler flew. The foundation wants to bring the plane to Wichita for restoration and make it a flying living memorial. The foundation also hopes of displaying the plane in the airport terminal.
He deserves to be remembered forever in this city, in this state, and really in the nation.
Zerker acknowledges it could take several years to accomplish their goals, but says properly honoring Bleckley is long overdue. This is Chris Frank reporting for Positively Kansas.
Zerker says Bleckley's last flight is recognized as the most famous of all Army Air Force flights during World War I. Zerker and other foundation members are happy to talk about Bleckley at local schools and other groups to keep his memory alive. Vintage bikes, roaring engines, and loads of nostalgia. History abounds for motorcycle enthusiasts at Twisted Oz Motorcycle Museum in Augusta. Anna Spencer takes us out to this Butler County treasure for a peek at a one-of-a-kind collection that's drawing national and international attention to the heartland.
Step into Twisted Oz Motorcycle Museum and prepare to be overwhelmed. From floor to ceiling, you'll find all things motorcycle, from vintage two-wheelers to rare biker memorabilia to seldom-seen historic pieces and so much more. It's a dream project developed by Augusta businessman and motorcycle enthusiast Kelly Maudlin, who, along with a team of volunteers, repurposed an old car body shop into a unique motorcycle museum located in the center of the country. Twisted Oz features 140 motorcycles, that's 42 different makes, including several experimental one-offs and approximately 25 bikes over 100 years old. And Maudlin doesn't just collect these vintage pieces, he repairs, restores, and rides them as well.
This is a 1914 Excelsior. It's 106 years old. There's no transmission on this motorcycle, so you have to pedal it to start it and you have to pedal it to take off. So you have to be in somewhat good shape. Not bad for a 106-year-old motorcycle.
Maudlin is quick to point out that the museum wouldn't be possible without fellow motorcycle enthusiasts and friends like Paul Belt and Jerry Ottaway. Ottaway has been riding since he was 14 years old. He continues to carry on a legacy that dates back to his grandfather and has helped to restore several of the motorcycles at the museum.
A regular Indian 4 has 4 cylinders, and the cylinders are cast in pairs. So what he did to build a 6, he lengthened the crankcases and welded them together. But it'll run over 100 miles an hour. It's 2,000 cc's and 120 cubic inches. We'll give you a demonstration here. If we get the starter in gear here.
The collection at the museum includes several of Ottaway's own bikes, but it's not just the assortment of vintage motorcycles that draw people into Twisted Oz. The museum also features an authentic Valentine diner nestled in the back of the building, a historic bank teller window, and a designated bike repair and restoration area. It wasn't long before the museum expanded to a second building known as Twisted 2. It's in this building where you'll find an extended motorcycle collection, many from overseas, as well as hand-painted custom murals by local artists. Combine these great attractions with Maudlin, Belt, and Ottaway's expertise, and it's easy to see why the museum is gaining notoriety. Twisted Oz not only attracts locals, but also brings in tens of thousands of travelers and motorcycle enthusiasts from around the globe. A quick look at their guest book and you'll see that it's making a name for itself as a motorcycle world destination.
Usually there's 3 of us here, Paul and Kelly and myself, and we try to give them a guided tour. You know, sometimes they'll get busy and you can't give them personal tours, but and then you get a lot of the old timers that come in that had something back in the 40s or 50s, you know, and they like to talk about their motorcycles too. And so it's just a fun place to come into. And then we have a lot of the atmosphere, a lot of the old shirts hanging up and helmets, and it's not just a sterile building.
At Twisted Oz Motorcycle Museum, every bike has a story, and 3 bike enthusiasts who are ready to tell it. In Augusta, I'm Anna Spencer for Positively Kansas.
Twisted Oz Motorcycle Museum is located along U.S. Highway 400 in Augusta. Admission is always free. They welcome motorcycle lovers of all ages as well as the curious. Check their website and social media for museum hours or to schedule a private visit. You may not know the name Alex Joaquin yet, but you will. He's written a Broadway-style play, he's written scores for award-winning movies, and he's even written and recorded a full-length CD. And this young Wichitan has done it all before even reaching the age of 24.
My parents put me in piano when I was 3.
By the age of 10, Alex set his sights on playing Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata. For those of you who know classical music, you know that's not something your average 10-year-old can do. But then again, there's nothing average about Alex Joaquin.
My teacher was like, Alex, it's really hard, you shouldn't do that. I was like, I have to do this, I have to do this. And I think it was also this whole pursuit of beauty, right? This thing is incredibly beautiful. And so I want to take the challenge to get that, you know, to find that beauty.
And find it he did. Although it took him about 3 months of serious work, sometimes mastering just 1 measure a day.
Well, actually, I never mastered it, but I got better at it.
What made you want to take on these really difficult pieces?
It's a great question. I think it was the challenge. I need to be challenged. I don't know if maybe I am talented, I don't know, but I feel like the curiosity and the work, that's what takes, you know, the rest of the way, so.
And he continues to challenge himself to this very day.
I was always wondering, who's that person's name on the top right of these papers, right? Like Chopin, like who's that guy? I want to be that guy.
At the age of 14 or 15, he was that guy. By high school, he was writing concertos for the band, and his name was in the top right corner. When you go to write, do you hear the piece fully in your head first, or how does it happen? Tell me the process.
That's a good question. I'll hear gestures, so like larger movements, like, okay, we're going from this thing to this big thing, here's this wash of sound. But I don't hear the specifics until I start working them out.
After graduating from Wichita's Northwest High School, Alex chose to continue his studies at Kansas State University. While there, he wrote a full-length Broadway-style play called American in Beirut.
And it's a story, it's really a story about Lebanon and about my relationship to Lebanon and what everybody can learn from their relationship to where they come from.
It was first performed on stage in 2018. Alex then rewrote a new version in 2019 that was performed at the Crown Uptown Theater in Wichita. Now he's currently working on another incarnation that promises to be very different from the other two.
Welcome to coffee, but flavor and cardamom tea.
After graduating from K-State, Alex packed his bags and headed to New York University for grad school, hoping to take his skills to the next level, something one of his K-State professors encouraged.
One of the things he said was, you want to be the worst person in the room. Right? You want to be the worst person in the room because there's so much more to learn.
While at NYU, he began collaborating with directors and movie producers, one of which asked him to write a score for Frayed Roots, a movie that won awards at the Rain Dance Film Festival.
The real joy of composing is working with performers, working with filmmakers, working with other people. For me, at least, is the collaboration.
Even the recent COVID-19 outbreak didn't slow him down. While quarantining with his family in Kansas, Alex wrote a chamber piece that was performed over Zoom, and he worked with members of the Wichita Symphony to produce a new album. It's definitely going to be fun to see where his path takes him next.
There's a million things I haven't done. It's always looking to the next thing and enjoying the things I have at the moment, but always looking to the next thing and never getting comfortable.
Alex says he feels his Midwestern roots have served him well.
I'm super thankful for that and the way that my parents have raised me. I'm an immigrant family. Working hard that's the number one. It's not, oh, I'm, born into this or whatever. No, it's do you work hard? Do you work for, and that's also what Kansas values. So I'm extremely thankful of the Kansas values.
Alex says he still wants to write an opera, a symphony, and work on a major feature film. His CD is available to download from any major music app. And by the way, he's won so many awards through the years that we didn't even have time to list them all. Now it's time for our Kansas Wild Edge Report. This week, Mike Blair gives us an inside look at how he captures some of this candid close-up video of elusive wild animals. It's more simple than you might think.
Wildlife photography takes extreme patience, often in uncomfortable circumstances. But it can pay off in great pictures when carefully planned and practiced. Even so, modern technology has a great way to keep an eye on nature when you can't be there. Inexpensive motion-sensing trail cameras record in all weather, both day and night. Keep them powered up with fresh batteries, and they can work throughout the year to capture the best of nature. Wild animals may know they're there, but the cameras are soon ignored. And that's when they provide a fascinating window on the outdoors. Most can be set to record either still pictures or video. I use them to supplement my daily videography. I use these cameras along trails and travel ways, but I also bait some sites with corn to invite longer visits. Soon, a whole community of wildlife drops by these camera traps. The following clips are a small sample of what can be seen. From deer to mice, trail cameras provide a glimpse of the wild community. I'm Mike Blair for Positively Kansas.
Volunteer artists in Cheney win a grant to turn an empty lot into an artsy place for people to gather. Chris Frank shows us how they're adding artistic beauty and charm to Cheney's Main Street.
So it is going to be pretty cool.
Cheney is a rural community of about 2,100 residents, according to the 2010 census, in the westernmost part of Sedgwick County.
So far it looks good, I think.
On a pleasant autumn day, 4 artists start the work of turning the side of this building, a blank canvas, if you will, into a piece of art and more for the community. From a short distance, the wall appears blank. Up close, you can see an outline of the design the artist projected onto the wall, then sketched it to guide their work with paint and brushes. Drawings are posted on the wall of the finished work they're going for.
There's so many stereotypes about small towns.
Artistic murals seem to pop up everywhere, from small towns to large cities. They often help to portray and communicate a community's history. But the artists here say the work at this site will be more than a mural.
So this is going to be kind of an outdoor installation. We were looking for a place for people to stop. When you come through Cheney in the evening, it is not uncommon to see people walking down the length of Main. I think it's either a 2 or 3 mile stretch from one end from MacArthur all the way down to the golf course and back. So this gives people a place to come in here for a while and to be able to sit. So there'll be a wheat sculpture, there'll be some stained glass, there'll be a mosaic bench, and then some glass panels.
To fund this, the City of Cheney wrote a grant proposal to the Kansas Creative Arts Industries Commission. A nearly $10,000 grant was approved. It's an in-kind grant, so local contributions, including value of labor, match the commission's grant.
This is all done through volunteer work. Everyone has volunteered time and energy, or they've donated, some of it donated supplies that were above and beyond the grant. So it really is a kind of, in an interesting way, a small town community effort that we have here.
Caswell is overseeing the work. On this day, 3 fellow volunteer artists are helping.
It's wonderful. It's therapeutic and fun, and you meet so many beautiful people.
Oh, I love doing this, and I think it's really nice to just do something nice for the town, and hopefully everybody's going to like it.
Ender has her own painting business, and just looking at her sweatshirt tells you this isn't her first painting. But this type of painting is a first for her.
This is fun. This is my first outdoor mural. But even in the Kansas wind, it's fun to do this out here.
I love to paint. It's relaxing. It's meditating.
Even when you make a mistake, right?
Yes, of course it is. You know, with my personal choice, it keeps me out of jail.
Yeah. That's an example of the humor that the painters offer just to keep things light out here. Caswell calls the mural design a simple piece. She says part of the inspiration for the design came from the photographs of the late Carl Koster. Koster was a former Cheney mayor. Koster started taking photos around Cheney as a youth for 4-H projects. Caswell says his photographs of the town's grain elevator, a carnival's Ferris wheel, and just life in general in a small rural community are the inspiration for the mural. Koster also shot for NFL Films, hopscotching across the country on weekends to get to whatever National Football League game he was assigned to shoot game film of.
An idea of small town, again, civic, community, family, and faith.
A couple months later, in January, shows a lot of progress towards the completed goal. The local grain elevator, farm tractor, and its driver clearly seen. The Ferris wheel is also taking shape, but Caswell says it's the fine detail work on the Ferris wheel which consumes so much time.
We really have to focus on the lines and the importance of the lines conveying the message, this idea. And so I've got these black lines and I'm like going over them again and again.
Caswell says the mural will look something like you might have seen on a roadside barn back in the 1920s or 30s. Other volunteers put in the brick walkway for the installation. 7 glass panels and 1 stained glass panel will be placed on the wood panels here. Cheney volunteers constructed metal sculptures Caswell designed to be put up on the site. Caswell had high hopes of this being completed earlier, but she says there were too many unexpected obstacles.
It's amazing, all of the roadblocks that have come in front of us for this mural. It's laughable, actually. I mean, I think first we had COVID, then we had the holdups for just getting all of the supplies. And then lastly, it was decent weather, but it was too windy. Then it was decent weather, it was too hot, and then it was cold.
But it's coming together, and people passing by are noticing.
I walk by here about every day, and Kelly's out here painting, and it's looking amazing. It's a great addition to the main street of Cheney.
And it's going to make Cheney prettier. It's more, we'll have sculptures too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it'll give a nice focal point.
It's a focal point to draw the attention of those tempted to just pass on by, but instead will be drawn in to stop and linger at the new art installation. In Cheney, for Positively Kansas, this is Chris Frank reporting.
Well, that's a wrap for this week. Email us your story ideas at positivelykansas@kpts.org. Thanks for watching. Ciao.
Program support provided by the F. Price Kosman Memorial Trust, Entrust Bank trustee, bringing you the Kansas Wild Edge segments on Positively Kansas.
Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Kansas serves more than 930,000 Kansans in various programs. Independent, member-owned. Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Kansas, an independent licensee of Blue Cross and Blue Shield Association, supports KPTS.
Before investing your hard-earned money, make sure your financial advisor understands your objectives. Mark Douglas, CFP, serving our community for over 20 years, providing customized financial solutions that focus on the individual.